Halo, selamat sore teman-teman dari PLN. Apakah sudah ada di dalam Zoom saat ini?
Sudah, Bu.
Sore sudah Ibu.
Sudah, sore Bu Maria,
Baik,
sudah.
terima kasih. Ini tidak bisa melihat wajah saya, tapi saya ada di sini. Saya tidak ada di dunia lain. Oke, baik Mas-Mas. Saya akan bukakan sebentar untuk QR code absen. QR code absen. Saya share ke Mbak Nikita ya. Nanti Mbak Nikita share di grup, oke? Yang untuk QR code-nya absen ya.
Baik, Bu.
Ya, kemudian Prof. Björn masih masih lah ini beliau datang nih. Prof. Björn is already welcome Prof. Björn and Prof. Karin. Ya, ini beliau hadir. Setelah ini saya perkenalkan dulu di grup, kemudian kita akan mulai. Rivaldo, could you please show this screen on the big LCD? Error ya. Terus anak-anak nggak bisa lihat jadinya. Nanti kalau share screen, Mas Mbak sebentar ya, ini kan saya ambilkan dulu filenya Prof. Björn. Halo teman-teman, apakah bisa mendengar suara saya dengan jelas?
Mendengar Bu, sedang jelas.
Okay.
Jelas, Bu.
Okay. So we will
Jelas.
start our session and then the QR code of the attendance will be shared later. Okay. So all the lecture today will be delivered in English and we are using moving camera. The camera will track the movement of Professor Björn while he is delivering the lecture. And all of students here, for your information, we also have on-site student. It's about 20 students in this room, and later on you can raise your hand and ask question. There is an operator who will help us to look at the raise hand on the screen. I will also join the screen by my laptop after this. Okay. Yep. And then student in this room also can ask question. Is it ready? Yep. Okay. Yep. Let me start the introduction. Hello, all the students. How are you today? Are you doing good? Yeah. How's your feeling? Are you excited to learn? Okay. So today, everyone, we are going to learn from the expert. We have with us. Pak Rini, do you want to use the? Okay. Just a moment. We just transfer the file first, and then we will start our introduction. Kayaknya didit modified aja Mbak. Lagi. Yep. Yes. Okay. Click on that. Bentar. Saya tak men-share screen-kan ininya dulu. Profilnya Prof. Oh, we have clicker. Just a moment. I will take for you. Just a moment. Okay, so ya, clicker, gak ada tempat. Tak pindahnya aja filenya, ta? Oke. Okay, everyone. Before we start, a very short introduction, because I believe if I use the time to introduce Professor Björn, it will be 2 hours more. Please correct me if I pronounce your name not correctly. I'm very sorry. Björn, okay. Okay then, so today we are very glad to welcome Professor Björn and Professor Karin. Professor Karin now sit down at the back of the room. Just wave your hand and say, hello, Prof, how are you? Yes. Because it is a very great pleasure for us after more than 8 years, I believe, when I was still working in the international office of or global engagement, we tried to engage with our colleague from KTH, stand for in your language?
Kungliga Tekniska Högskolan. Sounded like an orc from Mordor, huh?
Yes, Royal
Institute
of
Technology.
Okay, Royal Institute of Technology in English, okay? And then I have to mention everyone that this university actually very high rank university. In the world, according to QS World University Ranking, the rank of this university is 74. So in the top 100, right? And the opportunity that offered by KTH is huge since this university is in the list of LPDP. So later on you can explore more about that. And I have to mention that Professor Björn is the Dean of School of Architecture and Built Environment. Correct? 100. Okay.
Very present. Yeah.
Thank you.
Correct.
So today we are very happy to learn about unique topic. We are talking about entrepreneurship many times. Even our country set entrepreneurship level as one of the goals for 2045, Golden Indonesian Age. Yeah, but we have to explore more because entrepreneurship without comprehensive consideration would be somehow flawed. Okay, and then I have to introduce our colleague on the screen. So this is the profile of Professor Björn. You can later explore, guys. You can find all the information here, list of the publication and so on, his expertise, and so on and so forth. And today, on the screen, we have 31 students, and all of them are master students from electricity company in Indonesia. It's called PLN, Perusahaan Listrik Negara. So all of them are students from special program, master program between ITS and PLN. And I believe one of the vision of PLN is toward net zero emission. So now they are moving to evaluate their business processes, how to make the electricity generation, transmission, distribution, and so on and so forth more efficient day by day. And additional information, PLN has program to also encourage startup in green startup and entrepreneurship. Okay, I guess I don't want to take more time to explain, because now limited time that we have will be given fully to Professor Björn. Can I ask big applause for him? Thank you so much. Thank you.
Question. Would I be needing the microphone for the people on Zoom to hear me? So you're working overtime today? So I'm very, very happy to be here. And as Maria said, I'm a professor and vice dean, or dean, actually, of the School of Architecture and the Built Environment at the Royal Institute of Technology. Yeah, there you go. Closing in. I'm very happy to be here. We are on a roadshow, Karin and I. Thank you very much. So we actually spent some time in Jakarta. I must confess, I like Surabaya better. It's a beautiful city. It's greener, it's more accessible, and I don't feel that my life is in danger when I cross the street. So it's very good to be here, and I'm looking forward to meeting you all here. I call this Sustainable Entrepreneurship and Beyond, an introduction. So before I introduce the introduction, I could introduce myself. I think it's like that, or possibly that, or not that. No. Should work, right? Oh, it's in the off position. There you go. Got it. Who am I and what am I doing here? Two good questions to start with. As I said, my name is Björn. And I am from, as Maria said, the Royal Institute of Technology. I've been working there for 20 years. Ocean of time, isn't it? So I've been working primarily with education and teaching entrepreneurship for our students, and I've also been teaching a lot internationally. And we're going to talk more about culture in a minute, together with the Swedish Federation of Enterprises. So a lot of trips to Asia, Myanmar, for instance, but also Eastern Europe and Africa. And I realized that the entrepreneurial obstacles or hindrances and the possibilities quite different in different parts of the world. So we're going to venture into this today. And now I've been working as the regional director for Southeast Asia for 5 years. Time flies. COVID came in between, so not too many trips. But obviously for us, Indonesia is a fantastic and interesting country to work with. Very good students. And I talked to Karin today, actually it's the third largest importer of students to us. I mean, China, India, then Indonesia, and then Sweden. at the master level. So we have more Indonesian students at the master level than Swedes. Good thing, because you are more hardworking than our native-speaking Swedes. I am a big fan of football. So I brought this. Football season just started in Sweden. And we're pretty good at this, right? No, Zlatan. Some of you might have heard of him. Zlatan Ibrahimovic, yeah. And I'm also started a couple of businesses in the past. Streetwear in California, for instance. Or you can probably see that this is a ship. I bought that ship in the late 1990s to do dive charter. It failed miserably after 2 years. But you learn something, right? And can you see what this is? The black thing there. Can anyone here identify that object? It's a helmet. And who should wear it, do you think? Yeah? What kind of pilot? A fighter pilot? Yeah? Yeah, and or? A helicopter. Ah. I went to kindergarten, and a 5-year-old could identify that as a helicopter helmet, right? So I've been in the helicopter business for quite some time, with personal equipment for helicopter pilots and crew. And I like to renovate old motorcycles as well. So if you want to get a good price on an old motorcycle, you can contact me. Or flight suits. So good. There you go. So this is what I'm going to cover today. I would like to take the opportunity to do some marketing as well. Sweden. Anybody here who's been to Sweden? No? You sure? Okay. So I'm going to do that. A short introduction to Sweden and Stockholm. Stockholm being the capital of Sweden then. And I'm going to do a short introduction and market our own university for a minute. And then I'm going to move on to talk about entrepreneurship and sustainable business in a couple of different dimensions. Just to make sure if they have any questions on Zoom, you're going to relay the questions to me. Perfect. Because I can't see you guys on Zoom already. And if you have any questions, what should you do you think? Or just shout it out. Don't hesitate. You know there's no stupid questions, right? Just awful presentations. So, shout it out or on Zoom. And I'm going to try to do some more structured lecturing, which means I'm going to talk for a couple of minutes, and then you're going to do a short exercise. Not physical, mental exercise, right? So I'm going to start with a short introduction to Sweden. This is Sweden, for those of you who haven't been here. This is a national day, June 6th. Commemorates, it was 501 years ago we kicked out the Danes, Denmark. Because Sweden used to be a part of Denmark in the past. Right, Karin? I'm just riffing. So that's June 6th. And this is in the middle of the inner city area of Stockholm. So it's a very multicultural society today, I would say. A large influx of immigration from different parts of the world. So I think today 1 out of 4 people in Stockholm was actually born in another country. So that is Sweden, right? And then you have here, I can do this. No. There you have the polar circle, right? So it's very dark during the winter. So it's a relatively large country, not as Indonesia. Indonesia is 4 times larger than Sweden by the sheer surface. But as you can see, there are not too many. We are 10 million people living in Sweden. 10 million, huh? Oh. A few. That's very few people. Few and far between. So it's a low-density country. And most people actually live in the southern part and in Stockholm, right? If you venture north, you can go days without seeing anybody. You might come across reindeers, animals of different sorts, but not too many people. We actually think we are good at sustainability, and that's what I'm going to talk about today. And also equality. That is something that we promote in every way that we actually can. And this is the Northern Light, which you might have seen. Well, you have the Southern Light here, right? Or do you have any? No? Southern Light? No, not so much. Okay. You can actually see it in Stockholm. It's fantastic. So this is Swedish industry. We focus a lot on innovation. We have very high wages in Sweden. So I think we put 3% or something like that on R&D and higher education. Hand up everybody who has IKEA furniture at home. Yes, cheap, huh? It's good. It's yeah, it's fun to assemble, isn't it? I did that as a part-time job when I was studying. Frustrating as hell, right? Assembling IKEA products. But then you find sort of a lot of manufacturing companies, right? Ericsson, mobile operator, Volvo, Saab, which are also strategic partners of our university. So we do a lot of education with them and research, I would say. And this is more modern day, right? Spotify. You know Spotify founded by a Swedish guy. Did you know that, Ibu Maria? Oh, you don't? Okay, but you use Spotify, right? Yeah, his name is Daniel Ek. And he was actually a student at a university for 8 weeks before he dropped out and became an entrepreneur instead. I think it was a good idea, right? And also gaming is big now in Sweden. You play Minecraft? Yeah, good movie. Some of you might play Candy Crush as well. I gave up, but it was great fun for a while. Okay, so this is Stockholm, my hometown and Karin's hometown as well. Half the size of Surabaya, roughly, 2 million people in the greater Stockholm area. It's similar to Surabaya in many ways, right, Karin? So, sometimes. It's green. It's green, right? And Stockholm is also very blue. This is the Baltic Sea. So it sits on 14 islands, actually, and a very international place today. So what could be said about Stockholm? It's one of the most livable cities in the world, I would say. Low crime rates, good public transportation. Do you speak Swedish? No. English is fine. It's a very international city, so you're fine with English. People are friendly, most of them. So if you got lost, you can ask your way, and they will help you. And it's also one of the safest cities in the world. We have good bike lanes and stuff like that. And crime, as I said, is low. And it's relatively cheap compared to a lot of other European cities, I would say. So, short introduction to my home university. This is the king, called the 16th Gustav, who comes to our university every 2 years or something like that. We are small in comparison with ITS. We're like the little brother when it comes to students. We're half of your 13,000 students. But we do have a lot of doctoral students, and we have a lot of staff. So as a student, you will spend a lot of time with your teachers or supervisors, actually. We have some 340 professors. And all in all, I think we have 175 alumni in 100 countries in the world in 20 different chapters. So perfect. This is the main campus. This is where I and Karin work here. And if you are admitted to the program, we will provide you with accommodation. And as you can see, it's relatively green. The Royal National Park and the lake. And it's very easy to get around, as I said previously. So it's a pretty safe place to be. So moving on to the topic of the day, entrepreneurship, right? It's important, right? Entrepreneurship. But before, you cannot answer this. I've heard that ITS students are the most observant in the world. And do you know what this is? It's chocolate and Nobel Prize chocolate. It's the best chocolate in the world. I will give this chocolate to the student in this room who can give the quickest answer to this question. What is the name of the Swedish king? Carl Gustaf, you're right. The gentleman here, congratulations. You're sure? Yeah, Carl the 16th Gustaf. It's kind of like the Nobel Prize. You don't get €1 million, but you get some good chocolate. Thank you, you're welcome. So now, moving on to this entrepreneurship thing, and I have been doing a lot of research on entrepreneurship in the past. So, why would you start a new venture? Could be numerous reasons why. Some people would like to change the world, sort of value-driven entrepreneurs. I met quite a few over the years. Think medical professors who would like to improve the quality of healthcare, for instance, or sustainability, for that matter. Status. It's cool to be an entrepreneur, right? And in some cultures, entrepreneurship is seen as something very, very positive. I will give you these slides afterwards, so you don't have to write them down. Money, right? You could earn a lot of money if you're a very successful entrepreneur. Or you might not have something to do. You might lack unemployment, right? So you have to find something to do. Or you might want to be your own boss. Nobody's going to boss me around or tell me what to do. So therefore, I start my own venture. So the question then is, precise drivers of entrepreneurship have been studied for at least 100 years. And if you look at different nations, cultures, stages of the business cycle, it seems to be one of these 5 is more common, irrespective of country. So, what do you think? What do you think is the most common reason for starting a new company? In the US or in Sweden, possibly Indonesia. I'm not an expert in Indonesia, but what do you think? You have 20% shot. What do you think? What?
There is very high number of unemployment in Indonesia, and my plan for reducing it. Yeah.
So you would guess this one, employment. Yeah? Definitely in some economies, absolutely right. Any other that you think is quite common?
Freedom to work for myself. So like, I don't want to work for someone else, so that I don't want to be in mental pressure or anything else, and to have financial freedom.
Bullseye. That seems to be the number one reason. Be your own boss, being independent. Could be in the US or in Sweden or in Thailand. It seems to be the number one reason, actually. But as you said, depending on the climate and job market, some types of companies are quite common that you start because you don't have any other thing to do. So I would agree. So, and of course, there are very different types of entrepreneurial ventures that are started in Sweden and Indonesia today. These represent different types of companies. lifestyle. I mean, most businesses are started small and they stay small, right? They will give you a salary, basically. And then you have these, what's sometimes called gazelle companies, that grows a lot, right? And then you have something in between. This was a brewery I visited, and I think the equipment was kind of cool, which is a different type of business altogether. So, as you said, what's your name?
Evan.
Erfan. As you said, there are different types of factors working here, sometimes called push, that you might lack employment. You're not happy with your job. You might get a divorce. You want to change your life. You are pushed into entrepreneurship, right? Sometimes called necessity-based entrepreneurship. Or you have what's called opportunity-based entrepreneurship, that you find an opportunity in the market that you would like to explore or exploit. It's a quite different type of entrepreneurship altogether, I would say. And this is a more positive way of looking at new ventures, I would say. This is an interesting map, which I show all new students at the master level, because they're very international crowd. Have you seen this before? This is new to you. Okay, so I will explain it then. It has to do with culture, basically, and entrepreneurship, but primarily culture. On this axis, the x-axis, you have the values that are dominating in the society, whether they are based on survival or more self-expression. And this is very old research. It's been done since the 50s at least. Survival in these values has to do with economic and safety, basically. It's also values that you tend not to trust other people or trust foreigners, more ethnocentric in a way. And at the other end, you are more interested in sustainability, preservation of natural resources, and other types of values, right? And at this axis, the y-axis, you have traditional versus secular values. And it has to do with how you perceive, for instance, religion. Is that important or is it not important? And also authorities, for instance. The importance of family, right? So you have more secular values where religion is not super important, and you have countries where religion is very important, for instance. And it's not a matter of right or wrong, right? I usually show this to have a discussion on communication in the classroom, that we have very different values in the world, and that will have an impact on communication. And as you can see, oh, what happened? No, I did that, sorry. You can see that Sweden is a very extreme country. It's a very extreme country when it comes to values. Family is not important. You can ask Ivo Karin over there. I mean, family is important, but it's not super important, right? Many people in Sweden live by themselves, take care of themselves. And also, we are a very secular country. I can't recall when I went to the church last time. Probably when I was 15 or something like that. So it's not super important in our society. And also that we're very sort of environmental friendly. That's very, very important for us, right? Can you find Indonesia? Yes. Yeah. You see it, right? The yellow dot. Do you think this is a very big investigation? I mean, hundreds of thousands of people are asked on a survey every year, so it's pretty reliable. Does this seem okay with you? Is this a true depiction of Indonesia? You would say it's pretty here, low trust, but also rather traditional when it comes to authorities and values and the importance of religion, right? It would make sense. Do you think this has an influence on entrepreneurship? Maybe? You never thought about that, no? Think about that for a couple of minutes. If it does have an impact. Yeah. Yeah. And it will probably have an impact on what kind of companies that you do start, right? If you are forced into entrepreneurship for survival reasons, you might start a certain type of companies, more like service-based companies, for instance, restaurants and other types of services. Whereas you might start other types of companies over here. So I have a next question, I think. It's this one. And I'm going to explain this to you. It has to do with startups per country in the world. And the important one is the yellow one, basically. The blue one is number of new firms that are started in these countries. So then you would expect countries like China, the US, India being on top because there's so many people, right? The population is enormous. But the yellow one has to do with startups per capita. So it's related to how many people actually live in the country. And there you will find Indonesia is ranked number 41 in the world. And our tiny country of Sweden related to per capita is number 5 in the world out of 195 countries. And you will find top 5 countries is United States, United Kingdom, Israel, Canada, and Sweden. And you can think for a moment, what kind of countries are there? So now I would like you to do something for me. I have formulated a couple of questions here regarding Indonesia and the entrepreneurial culture. So what I would like you to do now is where you sit, say in groups of 3 or 4, discuss for a couple of minutes. Do you think Indonesia has a culture that's very supportive of entrepreneurship? Is that perceived as a good thing? Do you think the culture is becoming better? And it would be interesting to see if there are any differences between men and women when it comes to entrepreneurship. So could you do that for me? And you could moderate that on Zoom, right? To divide them into some groups and to have a good discussion. Yeah. So for 5 minutes, can you organize yourself into groups? You can turn around, for instance, and talk to these guys. So I will give you 4 or 5 minutes to talk about this.
Bapak Ibu yang di Zoom, kami akan membuat breakout room. Nanti setiap breakout room akan di-assign 3 sampai 4 orang. Silakan didiskusikan berdasarkan apa yang sudah dijelaskan ya di slide ini. Untuk didiskusikan nanti sekitar 10 sampai 15 menit kami akan meminta kembali ke main room. Terima kasih. Ya, open room. Oke, silakan bisa masuk ke masing-masing breakout room. just for 5 minutes, Bapak Ibu.
They could send you some answers and you can. Take a 10-minute break with the minute. How do you see that? Yeah. Usually do 45 minutes, 50 minutes. It's not that. No. Press it. Perfect? Yeah, perfect. I got the microphone back. So, now it will be really interesting to see what you have talked about in your groups. Should we start with the first question? And I'm going to start with the team here. What do you think? Do you think that Indonesia is a very entrepreneurial culture? Who is the spokesperson? You?
Yes. Okay, thank you for the time, sir. So my name is Siwi and I would like to represent my group discussion. So the first one related to culture that support entrepreneurship in Indonesia. Based on our discussion is yes, because Indonesia is a country which has very rich in terms of culture. For example, we have a lot of traditional food and then also batik. And batik is very unique for each of the each of town. It has the uniqueness, and therefore starting from that rich point, usually it comes a lot of entrepreneur from that cultural difference. And then for the second point,
You have to wait.
yeah,
Because thank you. We move on. Are they correct, do you think? Is the entrepreneurial culture good in Indonesia? You say yes.
I'll continue in the startup one, sir. Okay. So talking about the startup entrepreneurship, especially in the startup Indonesia. So Indonesia has a supportive culture about the entrepreneurship. Like for example, there is Telkomsel as the national network and telecommunication company that has its own Telkomsel ventures like funding and then its loan in startup. So, but due to the last couple trouble in the startup industries like fraud in the funding could impact the potential investment from global to Indonesia.
So you're all in agreement. Entrepreneurship culture is good in Indonesia.
We like to disagree a bit.
Perfect. Good.
We agree with the rich culture that Indonesia has
Yeah.
and with all its offer, but it could also be the downfall of Indonesia's entrepreneurship, because from our perspective, Indonesia is still very traditional when it comes with religion and and its mindset.
Okay.
And we don't have a highly educated people
Okay.
like many European countries
All right.
have. That's why I don't think many people in Indonesia is ready to receive the startups yet, because the pay discrepancy is very high.
Yeah.
And I think the only one who can start the startup is only the ones who have the money. And it's
okay.
very little proportion.
Okay.
But I agree with
Yeah.
the rest of the statements.
Thank you, sir. Should we move on to the guys on Zoom? What are they talking about on Zoom? Can you help me out?
We can go into one breakout room. No. You can go. Oh, already come back to the main.
Okay, good.
Okay, maybe. Yeah. So, Bapak Ibu, maybe is there any group that want to explain related with our discussions, please? Yeah.
Mas Rasif, could you please open your
Yes.
microphone and then share your opinion?
Yes. Okay. Thank you, Miss Maria. So, in my opinion, in my breakout room teams, so the number one, so we think the entrepreneurship in Indonesia culture is supportive is very supportive because the of reach of the culture in Indonesia and its offer, and I and we agree of that. And then, but there is the problem maybe in this challenge in the culture in Indonesia, because Indonesia is a lot of populations and a large scale of area in country. So maybe that's very challenging for its government to have to support the entrepreneurship in culture Indonesia. Maybe it's like that, but yeah, maybe there's economical analytics and then strategies the government have to the strength the entrepreneurship in Indonesia. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to move on to another important question. We skip number 2. But we have a very dynamic team of 4 bright students. Have you talked about, are there any differences between men and women when it comes to startups and entrepreneurship, do you think, in Indonesia?
Okay, so after our discussion earlier, I think there is a quite difference between men and women. But the main difference, I think it's what kind of aspects and what kind of industries they're into. Because I think most of the startup countries in Indonesia, when it comes to men, they usually make industries like something that's applicable and like digital industries. For example, like Gojek. Yep. Gojek is like a ride-hailing apps, and then it was invented by men. And like most of that kind of industries is invented by men, but the women, I think in industries like food, there are more like food and traditionals, and I think they're making some like art and craft. It's
okay.
into
Yep.
women, and then so they are. I think the difference is like the aspect and the industries they're into. But I think for the number, yes, I think most of the startup company in Indonesia are invented by men, and they are develop more and better than the one that was invented by women.
Okay, interesting.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's-
Would the rest of you agree here? Do men start better companies? That sounds weird to me. Yeah? Should we take the team over here? You were like the Fantastic Four over here, right? What are your thoughts on men, women entrepreneurship in Indonesia today?
Sorry, can you repeat the question again?
Are there any differences what kind of companies men and women will start in Indonesia today? Or is it seen as a male occupation to be an entrepreneur? What do you think?
Okay, so thank you for the time that you've given me. My name is Kaha, and for like overall the question, we believe that like the business in Indonesia, they have the potential to have like it's for its culture and its resources. They have like a good support towards like the startups or like business, but we think very few could stay to become like a bigger or like more successful companies in the future. As the other team that man said before that we kind of like we have the potential, but we're not there yet to actually reach the higher standards in entrepreneurship. And so I think that's our team's opinion.
Thank you. Thank you. Shall we go to Zoom to see if there are any thoughts on men, women entrepreneurs? Oh, yeah. Sorry.
Well, actually, I agree with what she said about the difference might based on what industrial aspect they're in, but I want to add more opinion on there are also difference in what role they're in. For example, I noticed that in Indonesia itself, there are difference when it comes to software engineers. They're mostly dominant in men, but for example, in graphic designer or visual design, they're mostly done by women. So that's difference is based on their roles as well.
Okay, thank you. And on Zoom, do we have any thoughts? Should I get it? Somebody raise their hand.
Mr. Agus, please.
I see that guy.
Okay, thank you for the time, Mr. So my opinion is there are not noticeable difference between male and female entrepreneurs, mostly due to social and cultural factors rather than capability. Women often start business to support their families or to achieve work balance, while men are more likely to be driven by the opportunities and profit. Thank you.
Thank you, Agus. Thank you. I will say we see some similar patterns in Sweden as well. That men and women, as you said, they start different types of businesses in different industries. Traditional manufacturing, hard work, that tend to be male. And actually the overrepresentation of women in service industries, right? Do you think men or women are, which is most likely to fail in their entrepreneurial endeavor? Any thoughts? You have a 50% shot now in Sweden. Companies started by men are more or less likely to go bankrupt. What do you think? It's a coin flip. More, you're correct. Actually, because men tend to be higher risk in their company. So they are, by definition, more likely to fail. And they start different types of businesses, as you said. So that is quite true. And now, Maria, it's 5 p.m. Time to go home. Not yet, but that I have a short break to catch our breath and to get some water. So 10 minutes. So 10 minutes, and then we're back to talk about financing of companies. So I think we have to fast forward a little bit.
Everyone, it seems like the way Swedish learning is more friendly than Indonesian. Because Prof. Björn asked me, do you have break in the middle of your class? I said, 2.5 hours straight. And then, oh my God. So now please have 10-minute breaks, 5-minute breaks, go to the restroom. You can stand up, meet new friends, say hello to all the new friends, have a little chat with Prof. Björn and Ibu Karin, and then come back again 10 minutes from now. Thank you, Pak.
You're very lucky. This. You're very lucky. But here, and let me think about what I know, right? Contact me. Huh? Would be perfect. Well, 10 minutes. So let's continue. There are two more dimensions of sustainability that I would like to cover. Thank you. I'm too forgetful. Two more aspects of sustainability in businesses that I would like to cover. And one is teams or founding teams. I think it's more and more common today, at least in Sweden, that companies are not founded by one person, but more, a group. So we call it entrepreneurial teams. And these are just some quotes. Tim Collins wrote a book, From Good to Great, classic management lingo. But he introduced the idea of first who and then what. The idea is that it's more important to get the right people on the bus. If you find the right people, they know what to do. If you found the wrong people, you might go the definitely wrong way. This might be an unknown quantity to you, Arthur Rock. I think he's 98 years old this year. And he's one of the most important venture capital. You know what venture capital is? It's an investment company, right? And he's a renowned venture capitalist. And he says that if you find the right people, they can always change, right? And he makes the idea that every mistake he has done in his life is investing in the wrong people. And I think that's very, very important lesson. So, into that diversity conflict issue. The idea is that in creating something new and something great, you would need different perspectives on the problem. We face a lot of challenges as a society today. And so the idea is that solving these problems, we have to have diverse viewpoints and looking at the problem from different perspectives and not only one. You might have heard the concept of group homogeneity. Have you heard that? When you are very similar in a group. 1, 2, 3, 4. You look the same age, right? You're from the same country. You have the same interest, perhaps then. So as far as a group concerned, you're very alike. This is a very efficient way of solving problems. But there's also very high level, but should be high here, a high risk of groupthink. Basically, if you are, or you share the same characteristics, you will not question each other's viewpoints. You think the same, you act the same, right? On the other hand, you have diversity or heterogeneity, which is a more inefficient way. Think you have different ages, so you're from different countries, religion. You speak different languages as well. There are a high risk of conflicts would arise in a group, and it might be less efficient. But you might, in the end of the day, arrive at a better decision. So the idea with entrepreneurial teams is that it should be diverse to some extent. But they can't be too diverse, right? So you have to strike a balance between how diverse a group should be. So the idea is that you would like some sort of conflict arising from what you should do. You should have different opinions on the task at hand. But you would never like to have a conflict in relationships. That's always undesirable, that people don't like each other. That is a very unproductive conflict. And I'm interested, because conflict and culture seem to be connected, right? Have you been to Italy? Have you seen an Italian movie? No? Toto. They like to shout at each other, right? Scream and shout. Sweden, not so much. We are very quiet. We like consensus. I want to think like you. I would never shout at you, right? I have no idea, Maria, what Indonesia is like. It's a big country, obviously. Okay.
In Java, mostly people is harmony seeker. Okay. Yeah, but not all. Okay. Some tribes also like shouting and yeah.
Okay. I would imagine so, right? You have different regional contexts and yeah, different cultures. So also very different in Sweden, I would say. People from the northern part seldom speak at all. Very quiet, like the Finns, in a way. Interesting. So, I would say that entrepreneurship then is all about networks, building networks, and finding important partners to work with. That's the idea of an entrepreneur. You have to sell yourself before you can sell anything else, I would like to say. And also find backers that bring more than money. You have to extend your network by interacting with people with very diverse backgrounds. That's the idea. You have to find competent people to create a sustainable business. And you also have to surround yourself with people who are smarter than yourself. That's pretty scary, isn't it? I hate that. But it happens to me every day. So I've had a couple of PhD students who were far brighter than I am, which is good because you learn, right? But it might be scary to be the stupidest person in the room. So, an idea what you could do as an entrepreneur, building networks for creating a sustainable business, getting access to people, other people's resources, money, and getting access and working through networks like subcontractors. And hopefully, the best way of actually learning and improving your business to be more sustainable is to talk about your idea and interact with other people, getting feedback, not being quiet. Scary, but very good. And to some extent, it's dependent on luck. But you have to expose yourself to luck, really. And now comes my favorite topic, financing. And it has to do with financial strategies. And this is it's not the most beautiful of models. It looks like something from '84 textbook, but it's pretty good. And it has to do with, on the x-axis, you will find stage of development from the startup, from seed stages, that's very early stages, over to more established or mature business. And then you will find risk at this level, low, high. So at the beginning, obviously, most startups fail. I mean, it's a matter of fact, right? So the risk is very high. And then you would primarily target your founder money, friends and family, and fools who are to invest in your company, right? So I will walk them through these step by step, hopefully. The 4 F's of money. And then you would have business angels, right? Informal investors that work through different types of networks, venture capitalists, and hopefully commercial bank at the ends. So I will do a brief walkthrough, creating a sustainable financial strategy for the new venture then. But I will start with a short question about the financing of Indonesian startups today. Or you can say small businesses then. Have you any thoughts on how they are financed today? And do you think that financing is a challenge for startups or small businesses today in Indonesia? I think that will be sufficient for the first discussion, right? What do you think about the financing of small firms in Indonesia? So do that in the same dynamic groups that you had last time for, say, 5 minutes, 4 minutes. 4 minutes is enough, right? And think about that. How do you finance SMEs in Indonesia today? Ciao. Oh, yeah, you work. Like a sharp. So should we start with the guys on Zoom? If there are any thoughts on, because these are...
They're still on the break.
Okay, then we'll start here.
Yeah.
So should we start with this trio sitting here? I think this might be low bat.
Okay, the most common source of financing for Indonesian startup is from bank loan, I think, unless we are rich from we are born. So the first thing is bank loan, and the second maybe from investor. So the founder usually do pitching idea to the potential investor or businessman, and then they also have feedback after that. Okay.
Okay. Businessman, what do you guys say? Do you think funding or financing is a problem for Indonesian firms today? Or is there a lot of money out there?
I think it's from international the financing problem in Indonesia startups is how about we can maintain with our investors.
Yeah.
Like not a long time ago, there's a case about frauds that have been done by Indonesian startups named Evisory. Around 500 million USD have been frauded by them. It can give a big impact for another people that want make they want to make a new startup,
Yeah.
and I think the probability to get a big investor is going down,
Okay.
decreasing. I think from
Okay, owing to frauds. Thank you very much. Should we go to you guys? Have you any thoughts on the financing of Indonesian companies today? How do you get money to start a new venture in Indonesia?
I think I have to agree with like the other groups because we also thought that most of the startups from Indonesia start their company by first, I think, bank loans.
Yeah.
I think that's the most common. And then the next one, I think, with their own funding.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's
Savings, like.
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Shall we go to Zoom then? If we have any thoughts from the guys over there.
Okay, Bapak Ibu from Zoom. I believe that the company like PLN has their own funding from corporate social responsibility, maybe CSR, that usually can use for support the small business. Maybe one of the audience from the Zoom. Which one? Sure. Mana? Mas Benny. Mungkin dari Pak Benny.
Halo.
He left the building.
No.
Ya, Bu.
Oh.
Ya. Siapa nih, Mas
Oke.
Benny kah ini?
Siap, saya Bu.
Okay, Mas Benny, what do you think about what is the most common source of financing startup? Maybe from PLN point of view, you can also share. Monggo, Mas.
Okay, first I want to answer from the general point of view. What come or common source from financing for Indonesian startups today? The most common source are maybe personal saving, like on money, some kind of like bootstrapping. There are so many early stage startup rely on their own money or fund from maybe family and friends. Next one, I think investors, so kind of angels investors, individual who invest early in exchange or stocks for equity. Maybe they want to swift the investment from passive to active. And point of view of PLN, the most common source of financing is from the APBN. I don't know how to spell it in English. APBN
Government funding.
is government funding. Yeah, government funding. There are two source of government funding. First one from operational expenditures. We call it OPEX. It comes from PLN self, and the next is capital expenditure. It's come from capex. This funds come from loan, maybe from foreign funding.
I see.
I think, yeah, I think it's enough from me.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah. Professor Björn, maybe there is one phenomena in Indonesia that people after, for example, our colleague here working at PLN, government-owned company, and then approaching to their retirement, the government using the government budget, it is given money is given to them to start up company. So is it like not young people like them starting their own business, but when the employee of the government approaching the retirement time, they are encouraged to start something new life, something like that. Yeah. Do you have such kind of program, Mas Andromeda, in your PLN? Do you have program like that?
Yes, I think in PLN program maybe like CSR. CSR can help personal to for investment build the startup.
Okay.
And I think business startup in Indonesia and now must have many money because if the little startup I think is don't gain I think don't can fight in the most startup company in Indonesia.
I see.
think that
I got your point. So if they have just a little funding, they cannot survive. Is that
yes,
correct?
yes, correct, sir.
Yeah.
Correct, sir.
Okay, back to you, Prof. Björn.
Okay, thank you very much. I like the one with the bootstrapping, and I think we don't have time to cover that today. But as you said, founder money, super important, right? But also that this is a perennial problem in a lot of countries. How do we make sure that there are available finance for startups and SMEs, right? We're just writing a book about this right now in Sweden. And I have an old book that is 100 years old, discussing the same problem. So it's a very perennial problem. The solutions vary over time, but the problem is still the same. So, funding or founder financing, and this doesn't matter which country you're in, or what industry we're talking about. Founder financing is the most important part, especially in the early stages, right? The pros or the benefits is that you talked about banks, and if you are to get a loan with a bank, you have to make sure that you could commit some of your own money first, right? It's a prerequisite. And also, given the fact that you would like to be your own boss, for instance, it's good that you put in your own money first. You might take control the new startup for quite some time, right? And it could be used to get loans quite often. You go to the bank and say, I will put, let me see, rupiah, 50 million rupiah. Could you supply me with 50? Could I loan 50 million rupiah from you? And it might be more positive outlook to get the money. Downside though, most of entrepreneurs, and in Sweden, entrepreneurship is primarily something you do when you're in your 20s or your 30s. You don't have a fortune. Do you have a fortune? Not that much. Do you have a fortune? Not that much. Me neither. But I'm 50. So the most entrepreneurial people in our economy don't have that much money. And depending on what you're about to do, it might have some restrictions, right? And usually you have to convince your spouse or partner that this is a good idea. I'm going to start a new mine or something like that, or IT company, right? So another option is family and friends, right? Or fools. So this is the second most common type of funding in the really early stages, right? And there are some pros or benefits with using family and friends. Usually short-term credits, I would say, rather than investors. They lend you money, right? Usually, if you compare it with going to the bank, you might get more favorable conditions and terms than dealing with the banks. Short decision-making process. If you are to loan money from your aunt, right, she might not do a credit risk assessment to the same extent as the bank would do, right? Which is good. On the other hand, there are some risks with loaning money from your friends and your family members, extended families members. It could be problematic to mix business and private life, don't you think? You're going to that Christmas dinner with your mother-in-law, right? Who just lended you 50 million rupees to build a new business, and you failed miserably. Shit, what a dinner, huh? Not the best dinner of your life, I guess. So it could be very problematic if things does not go that well, right? But I've talked to a lot of entrepreneurs in different industries that highlighted if things go very well, it could be also problematic, right? Again, with the mother-in-law. She lended you that money, and you're a successful businessman now. And she might expect you to hire your cousin, who is useless, right? But she said, I lended you the money, now you have to help me. And this is quite common. So you might have to hire hopeless relatives, or brothers or sisters. Or they might want to participate in the operations of the daily business, right? So your cousin, your rich cousin, might want to be the chairman of the board or something horrible like that. But that said, it's very common. It's very, very common in some industries. Take restaurants in Sweden, for instance. They seldom go to the bank. They lend from each other or from their extended networks. And it could be based on ethnicity, for instance, religion, that you lend money to people you know, right? So very common, but not unproblematic, I would say. Moving on, customers and suppliers. Also a very important source of funding. And it's kind of a thing that you get automatically as you start doing business. You get credits from suppliers and possible prepayment from customers. A number of benefits. It's a way of avoiding going to the bank. Some entrepreneurs hate to go to the bank. We're going to come back in a minute why they might see that as problematic. And you avoid taking on new owners or investors, right? If you're an investor, you want to participate in the daily operations of the firm or strategic work of the firm, right? And if you're lucky, you might find consumers or customers who are willing to pay for product development. There are some downsides. I mean, there are some interest rates associated with especially supply credits, I would say. And you might get a discount if you pay early, for instance. And as a matter of fact, at least in Sweden, but I would say most of Western Europe, you will find that small business owners are bankrolling large firms. What I mean is that they actually have to supply good terms in dealing with big companies. Yeah, because big companies have a lot of power, right? And one should also know that there are enormous differences in payment culture in the world. So it will be, I talked to in one of the helicopter business I once had, we exported 90% of all the products around the world. And I had a discussion with the person from international affairs at the bank. And she told me, Björn, there are only 2 countries in the world that pay on time. You should know this, she said. I had no idea. Do you know who these 2 countries are who are perfect when it comes to payment in time? If the invoice is due in 10 days, they will pay in 9 days. Is it Indonesia? I think not. I'm not sure. But I knew the 2 countries in the world that are excellent when it comes to payment culture. You have 195 countries to guess from now. What?
Is it Japan?
Not on the top 3, no. Yes. Sweden. Switzerland. Unfortunately not. Not when it comes to payment. Sweden. And
Danish.
Oh, they're hopeless. No. Not the Danes, not the Danes. Finland, bullseye. You're going to win the Nobel Prize soon. No, actually, Sweden and Finland are very good when it comes to payment. We always pay in time. Just going west to our neighboring country of Norway, you would think that Norway used to be part of Sweden, right? That we are the same, but we're not. They are awful. They are worse than awful when it comes to payment, right? So we had a long discussion how to collect debt in Norway, actually, because they couldn't pay in time. So what about Indonesia? Do you pay in time? No? That was a quick answer. You don't pay it.
People here tend to pay, I wouldn't say not in time, but because we are more friendly to each other, maybe people will probably like tolerate late payments so that that culture grows and grows and grows, which makes it a bad habit.
Thank you. I think so too. Yeah. And to me, as an entrepreneur, it made me very nervous. It said due in 30 days, and it was like 30, 45, 60 days. And then the payment arrived after 70 days. So that is something to consider as well, payment culture. Okay, there you go. Yeah. So good. Something about customer finance that's really good. And I do have a course in entrepreneurial finance, and we talk a lot about customer funding and why this is a good thing. Bill Salman is a renowned venture capitalist as well, and he said that the best money in the world comes from customers, not investors. And another person, also a venture capitalist, said that the amount of money that startup raises in their seed is inversely correlated with success. What that means is that the more money you raise from investors, the less likely you are to succeed. Interesting thoughts. And why? Why customer finance? Why is this so good? It's usually considered that raising a lot of money, if you're on an entrepreneurial team and you get the hand of a lot of money, you will be sloppy, stupid. You will start doing stupid things because you're not forced to actually have your eyes on the ball. And you might want to change your plan. And then outside investors might not want you to change that plan, really. So getting money, prepayment for instance, is a good validation that you're onto something. Your product is good, your service is good, right? So funding from customers is actually a validation that you are onto something. And you avoid dilution of shares, for instance, in the early stage. So customer funding is highly recommended by investors. And it's also a way of increasing the value of the company, right? That you got some income going. Now we're going to move on to investors of different types. You might have heard of business angels. Do you know what a business angel is? No? You don't have the TV show Dragon's Den here? You heard of it, yeah? It's a show where entrepreneurs pitch their ideas to investors. And then they have a discussion on whether they're going to invest or not. Rich dentists, right? So, these are private persons or individuals who invest their own money in new ventures, right? Your own money. And they are very popular among entrepreneurs, right? Because they tend to be experienced entrepreneurs. Daniel Ek, the founder of Spotify, is now a business angel, right? He has made a lot of money and now he is investing in other entrepreneurs. So they're good. They are very active, right? Hands-on, helping the business grow. Tend to be generalists, right? Rather than specialists, which is good for a new company then, right? They're very local. If you live in Stockholm, you invest in Stockholm. If you live in Surabaya or eastern part, then you probably invest in eastern part of Surabaya. So they're very local. And they also have different motives. It might be fun to do the entrepreneurial journey again, right? or you want to give something back to your community, for instance. So it's not only about maximizing profit, like other investors. And you have a lot, they usually have a lot of, or a big network that could be beneficial for a growing firm. Downside, they are going to be part of the board of directors, yeah, and they are owners. They become owners of the company, and they are a lot of them are very strong-willed persons. Yeah, they are successful entrepreneurs, and many of them actually old men. Okay, I can't see what that is. I think it says industrial partnering, right? Yeah. And the idea is that we have a companies that are investing in other companies in the same industry. It's quite common within manufacturing or pharmaceuticals or gaming industry. And the idea, right? Some pros, as a large business, you might have resources. We said that small companies most often doesn't have a lot of resources, like labs, production facilities, and similar. We can also have relevant knowledge, I would say, or know-how. And they tend to be more risk-taking, that they're more knowledgeable within the industry, so they might accept higher risks, for instance, than banks. And they can help with getting access to the market, suppliers, factories, etc. Cons is a difference between a big business and a small business, culture-wise. And what's the overall idea of the long-term cooperation, for instance? And now we're going to move to venture capital. Have you heard of this? So what is then venture capital? You want to say? Yeah.
Okay, so basically venture capital in the startup industry is the one that give the fresh money, the fresh money for the startup industry, like loans or even fundings for them.
Excellent. Do you want to be a venture capitalist when you grow up? Hopefully. I hope not. No, you should. But these are very important when it comes to the financing of high growth firms, especially. And it's basically that they collect money from other investors, insurance companies, banks, pension funds, for instance, right? That they manage, usually for 10 years at a time. And they do a lot of different things, from seed financing to more leverage buyouts, a sort of later restructuring deal. Very hands-on, I would say. Very high demands on the company when it comes to growth. So this is for true entrepreneurial heavyweights, right? Minority ownership, typically. Limited in time. 4 to 7 years would be the investment horizon in Sweden anyway, these days. So what's going to happen after 4 to 7 years? Well, you're going to sell the company to a competitor or IPO, that is initial public offering. You're going to be floating on the stock exchange, right? That will be the overall goal. So it's very dependent on the business climate. It's very sort of up and down, a very volatile industry, I would say. They considered as big as the business angel market in Sweden anyway, but there are bigger deals, especially in later stages. Now to my favorite, banks. Loved by all, right? They get a lot of criticism every now and then, don't they? There are some good things, I would say. Different products, depending on what you're actually doing. Amortization loans, for instance, or factoring is quite popular as well, or leasing. It's a good way if you don't want to sell the company to an investor, right? And they're typically very hands-off. I have credits with the bank, and they would never want to talk to me. As long as I pay my interest, my amortization, they have a very hands-off approach to me anyway. And you get better and better terms. If you pay your interest in time, amortization in time, you will get better terms, right? Any downsides? Well, kind of. Usually require collateral and personal guarantee. Do you know what that is? What is collateral and personal guarantees that you have to offer as an entrepreneur? What do they require when you walk into that door? Your house, exactly. Your car. Your honor. No, not your honor, but your house and your car, right? So if you fail, they're going to take your house. And that's going to be hard to explain, huh? When you come home, talking to your partner. This thing happened to me today. So definitely. And personal guarantee, you know what that is? What a personal guarantee is very common that you have to offer. Is basically if the company cannot pay the debt, you will do it. So it's a common way to make the entrepreneur work extra hard, right? And most entrepreneurs hate that. I have pledged personal guarantees a number of occasions. And I have to sort of convince my wife that it was a good idea. But c'est la vie. And there are some products that are very, very expensive, I would say. And they can be tough to deal with. If things are going bad, huh? They can be very tough. Unlike governmental funding, for instance. They're typically soft forms. So that's a challenge. And if you don't have a track record, they will most likely not lend money to you. You can come back up for a couple of years when you file the annual reports and show that you actually can make some sort of money, then you might want to come back, right? Oh, so finalize with some recent development. You know crowdfunding? Yes or no? Yeah, what is that?
Yes, so crowdfunding is basically we're collecting the money from a lot of people, and usually this crowdfunding is quite common in Indonesia. So if we have sometimes if we have environmental damage or sometimes the problem, usually all the influencer use this crowdfunding to collect the money.
So that's very popular in Indonesia today. Crowdfunding, huh? Yeah, it's been around for a while. Did you know that the Statue of Liberty, right? That sits outside New York, right? I think. That was crowdfunded. But by French people. They pitched in a little money. So crowdfunding has been around for ages, really. So the idea is that you take a large number of people who might contribute a small portion, which in the end of the day will give you a lot of money. Yeah? So via different platforms, you have your own platforms here in Indonesia then, I would imagine. Crowdfunding platforms. Yeah. Good. So basically what used to be some sort of project funding, sending a news reporter or journalist to some conflict somewhere, has now been a way to actually finance running businesses. So there are very different things. Donations is that you pitch in some money and you don't expect any return, right? You do it for free. Prepayment is quite common in computer industry or gaming industry, I would say. You pay the game up front. Here you go, 50 euros. I hope to get one for free in a year when you're done, right? And peer-to-peer lending. Do you know what peer-to-peer lending is? You are a very rich person. Yeah. So you want to bankroll this guy over here, right? So you lend him money over the internet. That's peer-to-peer lending. You don't go through financial institutions like a bank. Or equity is that you actually invest in the company directly, and other different forms. Very large amounts of capital sometimes. In Australia and Sweden, real estate investment is done through crowdfunding, and that's hundreds of millions actually. And it's an interesting thought because you can actually easily invest. I could easily invest in an Indonesian company from Sweden. So it doesn't matter where you are actually geographically located. Or you can fund goats in Africa or whatever. And it's a combination of customer finances, which I think is kind of interesting. actually. Uh, a friend of mine wrote a couple of papers on crowdfunding, and he managed to see that it's a lot of consumer. It's not B2B. It's more business to consumer, and usually fast-moving consumer products in the end of the day, actually. But it's definitely worthwhile looking into in the future. And I had a final question, but I realized it's 5 minutes to 6. So I hate to keep you here when you should be home, on your way home to your families, huh? Or doing something productive of your life. But thank you very much, Maria, for letting me come here today. It's been a pleasure seeing you all, and I do hope that you all become entrepreneurs, right? The future of Indonesia. So thank you very much, and hope to see you soon in Stockholm.
Okay, thank you so much. How about give a very warm applause to Professor Björn. So today you learn, maybe to some extent you know about entrepreneurship and what type of financial support that can be provided by the government or society. But today you know several new terms. Anyone learn something new today? Sydney, what is the new term you learned today?
Today I learned about how we get the best startup and then the funding and about bank and others.
Yeah. Could you please mention one new term, like for example, crowdfunding? You never heard about it before.
No.
So crowdfunding is something new, yeah?
Something new.
How about you, Hafiz? What is the new term you learned today?
Yes, I same with Sydney. Crowdfunding is my first.
Okay. What else? Business angel, for example?
Oh yeah.
Okay. How about you, Della?
It's a new experience for a startup business in Indonesia. It's so good. Thank you.
Okay, so I know that now the time for you to prepare for pack up your stuff and go home, but at least today you know that we have a collaborator far away from Indonesia, but happen to wear batik, similar batik with me, and also Ibu Karin. And entrepreneurship is something that's growing all over the world, across all the discipline. So maybe you need to look at more deeper to the entrepreneurship things, right? Because Indonesia and also ITS, the vision of ITS is actually become the entrepreneurial university. So we would like to have more entrepreneur produced by this university, but it cannot be taken for granted, right? Because so many students start their own business, but 1 to 3 months after all the other colleagues got job, and then they get panic. Oh my God, you have income, monthly income, but for entrepreneur, you still have to struggle to start your business. And then even though Indonesia has big portion of young people start their business, but also very big portion get bankrupt in the first 3 months. So something that become eye-opening for us today. And once again, thank you so much, Pak. Thank you so much. If you are interested to go further for research in entrepreneurship, please come again to ITS.
I will. Thank you very much.
Okay, big applause. And for student in online session, thank you so much. This morning we learned as well from Professor Karin about ethics in engineering and sustainable development. I will post the recording in the Zoom, in the classroom, so you also can learn, and also the PowerPoint of both speakers will be posted in your classroom. Thank you so much and all the best, guys. See you later next week, yeah?
Thank you.
Okay, everyone, so now the time for backup, and just to let you know that our colleague on the screen, they actually now all over Indonesia. Some of them in Sumatra, some of them in Ambon, some of them in Seram, Mataram, and all over Indonesia. So now we are 6 here, they already 7 p.m., and some of them already 8 p.m. because in Indonesia we have 3 time zone. Okay, so have a good evening, everyone, and see you next week. Thank you so much, Pak Pon.
Thank you very much,
Thank
Prof.
you,
Björn.
Mr.
Yes, Maria.
Miss Maria, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.